Yo, it's SmallmouthCrush. Hey guys, I kind of messed up when it comes to my spinning rods. Yeah, I'm gonna explain. It's all coming out. Okay, I'm a big believer in having the right rod for the right job. And the amount of finesse fishing I do, the amount of drop shotting, the amount of smallmouth fishing, finesse fishing for largemouth, I need the right equipment. I fish a lot, guys. I guide full time, and I'm always on the water. So the equipment when it comes to my spinning rods is extremely important to me. And I strayed a little bit. I did. I really like the St Croix Legend Xtreme rods. It's the perfect balance. It's super lightweight. I can feel every bite. I have the most confidence when I have this rod in my hand, which I have in my hand quite a bit. Regardless, if I'm largemouth fishing, whatever the case may be, especially for smallmouth, I want to be able to have that feel. I want to be able to have good contact with the bait, know when that fish hits, and these rods certainly help me do that. And over the last year or so, I started realizing that for some reason, I just didn't pay attention to it in the past, but these real small guides on these St. Croix Legend Xtremes were really starting to irritate me, because the knot where I connect my braid to the fluorocarbon leader would oftentimes get stuck in these small micro guides, especially if I'm underhand pitching, you know, to a piece of structure or whatever. That knot would get hung up in here, and sometimes I wouldn't get a smooth cast, or the cast wouldn't land exactly where I wanted to. Now, when I'm making overhand casts and I'm bombing out a bait, never really seemed to have a problem. It's always when I was in a tight situation and needed to get that bait precisely at an area that every so often that knot would get caught in the guide. And so I wanted to fix that problem. And I started looking, just like you guys when you're looking to buy a rod. I hear about, I get a lot of advice from others, buddies of mine. I find out what brands they use, and nobody really, I consider myself like I'm a spinning rod, like that's my thing. And so it was hard for me to make a switch and find a good rod that's out there. Now my buddy Epic Eric, he loves spinning rods as well. He's a big believer in the Loomis, but they were, they're owned by Shimano now, and I wasn't sure. They were pricey. I did like the feel. But I have, 10 or 11 rods, and for me to, fork out a bunch of money to convert those over just really wasn't part of the plan. It's not something I wanted to do. So I kept searching, and I come across the Edge rods, right? It's called Edge rods. And it's built on the concept, on the original founder of Loomis, Gary Loomis. And so I thought, you know what? Let's give them a try. The problem with Edge rods is they're being made, I believe, out on the West Coast. And the way they market their rods, and they also build to order, there was no retailer or an outlet where I could actually physically go and test that rod out, because that's the ultimate test for me, is when I put that rod in my hand and I can, I can play with it, I can spool it up, I can see how efficient it is, and if it's something I'm going to be able to incorporate into my arsenal. Well, I went in blindly to Edge rods back in November. Actually, it was right around Thanksgiving. I think it was Black Friday, because they had a sale. I ended up buying 3 to try out to see if I would like them. So I went with 3 rods. I got the BWS, the Black Widow DSR 711-1, which is the extra fast finesse. Then I got the BWS MBR 733-1, which is a fast medium light. And then I got the BWS MBR 734-1, which is the fast medium. So I bought those thinking that if I really liked the rods, I would then get rid of my St. Croix and order a bunch of these rods. Well, It's what, almost March right now, and one rod finally shipped today. And I was so excited. I got this thing in, I ripped it out of the package right away, put a reel on it, and started testing it out. You know what? The guides are definitely bigger. The rod is, and I knew this going in, I knew the weights. The weight of the rod's just a little bit heavier than an Xtreme. And it seems to be, you know what, it would definitely be a good rod for somebody. You know, if you didn't use a Legend Xtreme in the past, you would probably think there's nothing wrong with this rod. It's good to go. But I was immediately disappointed, and it just felt heavy when I compare these two together. This Xtreme feels a lot better in my hand, and maybe it's because I'm used to it than this deal. You know, this handle's certainly a lot different than a Legend Xtreme. It's a little bit thicker through the base of the rod. And the one thing that kind of caught my attention was the reel seat. There is a groove, but once you take this, whoops. So once you take this this knob here and spin it down, it's actually kind of lopsided the way it fits on that reel seat. And that threw me off right away, because that's going to be a weak point in that rod. And I couldn't get over it. I thought about it for a couple hours. This rod isn't going to work out for me. I can't deal with that. So in the meantime, I broke a Legend Xtreme accidentally last fall, and they sent me a new one. And I didn't even think twice until I started, because it was the winter months, and I took it out of the package, and I realized something amazing, something I'm really excited to share with you guys. So long story short, the edge rods, I emailed them today, and I said, hey, I mean, it's been so long. Let's say I did like these rods. I would have to wait another 3 months, March, April, May, before I get all 10 rods in the mail, because they do make them to order, and I guess they are so backed up. So obviously guys are buying them, but they're just, it's not my style, guys. It might be yours. I'm not saying it's a terrible rod. I'm saying it's not going to fly for me. That's all I'm saying. The brand new Legend Xtreme that they replaced the one that broke last year. That's one awesome thing about St. Croix. On the higher end rods, if you break it, it's lifetime warranty. They'll send you a brand new one. So yes, I spent a lot of money obtaining this massive collection of spinning rods, but guess what? I'll never have to buy another rod again unless I decide to stray like I did here. But you know, fortunately, I mean, that's a huge plus in my book. But check this out, guys. They changed, I got this little one here. They changed the guides. The guides are bigger. They're still what I would consider kind of a micro type guide, but my knot is no longer going to get stuck when I'm making an underhand pitch with that fluorocarbon, the braid. I mean, this is huge. Problem solved. The new St. Croix Legend Xtremes have a lot bigger guides to run that line through. I'm good to go. So with that being said, now I got to deal with the hassle of trying to get my money back. I mean, I think it was like $800-900 order I put in just for those 3 rods. But they do have a 60-day money-back guarantee. I emailed them. We're in communication. Hopefully I can get that taken care of. Send this rod back, and maybe someone can find some good use for it. But for me, I'm going to stick with St. Croix Legend Xtremes now that the guides are bigger. But I want to break down the different reels that I'm going to be going with. But I want to break down the different rods that I'm going to be going with this year, just so you understand the different types that I use on a regular basis. So we'll start out with this brand new one. So this is a medium power. This is a 7-foot medium power. It's LXS 70MF. I'll have the links in the description below for you guys. But this is the medium. This is like my workhorse rod. It's got a real nice tip on it, yet it's still soft. But this is a rod where I'm going to throw, and let's break it down. Let's talk largemouth first. if I'm drop shotting for largemouth, where I'm casting to them, you know, it's very rare I'm over a school of fish. I don't get to fish for suspended largemouth or spotted bass as often as I'd like, and as often as you guys do down in the Midwest and the southern part of the country. But for me up here when I'm drop shotting, I like this 7-foot medium because it gives me enough backbone, yet enough give to be able to set that hook properly when I'm drop shotting, especially for largemouth. And I'll do the same when I'm making long casts for smallmouth. Now, this is a great tube rod. This is a great Ned rig rod, although I also use the medium light for Ned rigs. It's a great plastic if I'm finesse fishing, if I'm Texas rigging a brush hog or doing anything like that. This is when this rod's gonna excel for me. 7-foot medium light. Okay, it's got a nice, way softer tip, which is really gonna come in handy when you're fishing, drop shotting for deep fish, like I do smallmouth, when I'm dropping right below the boat. When that drop shot goes down and I see that fish on the graph, I'm dropping this rod right here with my drop shot setup, and I'm setting a hook right here at the boat. So all I'm doing is reeling up into the fish, letting that rod load up, and it is the best drop shot rod I've ever used. Hands down, I mean, this is the deal for me. This also excels for throwing those small finesse Keitech jigs, definitely for a hair jig. It's going to work for those real small, you know, 1/8 ounce, 16th ounce, small Z-Man Ned rigs. Any type of finesse plastic that you're going to shaky head with. Split shot rig. This is going to be the deal. And if you watch some of my crankbait videos, especially in cold water, or if I have to throw a shad wrap or something like that, this is the rod I'm going to be doing it with. So it comes in handy. So I'll have 4 of these rods and I'll have 4 of these mediums. And I'll basically have all my, for the most part, all of my techniques covered with these 2 rods. There is an exception, and that's this little guy here. This one here is the LXS 59 medium extra fast. So this thing's less than 6 feet. And this rod here is only purpose for this rod is when I'm fishing around cover, boat docks specifically, or I need to get back into a small corner where you're literally laying on your belly making a cast. That's why I have this rod in my lineup. So I'm going to probably spool this with heavier line. It's going to be 15, 17 pound fluorocarbon, or perhaps a heavy braid to fluorocarbon leader. And I'm going to be throwing a little jig, a Texas rig bait, a Cinco. Now I can flip and pitch with a bait caster or a bigger spinning rod. But I'm talking when you have to, like, when sometimes you're holding your rod like this and you don't have that angle. You're tight up, and a lot of times it happens on tidal water and things like that. That's when this rod comes in handy. And I promise you, I've cashed some good checks in tournaments because of a key fish I caught on this rod. And then if you watch some of my previous videos, you know I do have a handful of the 7.6, 7.5 foot medium light rods, which work great. They just give you a little bit extra. But I really think if you were to narrow everything down, let's forget about this. Let's forget about this little combat rod. If you just wanted some good spinning rods that are going to cover the whole spectrum, I would go with that 7-foot medium light and then a 7-foot medium. I mean, I'll drag tubes up to 1 ounce with this 7-foot medium. You know, if you're on heavy current, St. Lawrence River, Detroit River, you know, St. Clair River, places like that, this will handle those larger tube heads as well. So I thought, hey, it would be a great timing just to kind of show you what's going on, why I kind of strayed, and there's nothing wrong with that, guys. I hope, keep an open mind. You know, there may be a better spinning rod that comes along, and when I find it, and I really think it is, yeah, I'm going to buy them. I'm going to go with that. For now, right now, my confidence rod is going to be the Legend Xtremes, St Croix Legend Xtremes. So I hope this video kind of gives you an idea of the different rods that I use. Let me know in the comments below what are some of your favorite rods. I'd love to hear about it. Definitely. Let me know in the comments. Always until next time, we'll see you guys on the water.